I had a plan. I never put pen to paper to lay out the way I intended to redeem this life, but I worked on it in the back of my mind every time I felt the need to insulate myself from embarrassment, disappointment, or the persistent sense of my own failure. Having been raised in a church, I had a clear sense of how I ought to feel toward God. I considered him just and good, but I did not have the sort of relationship with him that many claimed and that is taught in the scriptures. To say that I loved God was a stretch. At age 15, I started to find my identity in high-altitude mountaineering. Even though the peaks dwarfed me by their size, by achieving a summit, I felt I could apprehend something of the mountain's significance. By the time I graduated from high school, academic achievement began to play an essential part in my plan. I gained admission to a top engineering school. That set me up for another component of my plan, to distinguish myself as an athlete. You see, for me, athletic achievement would only be possible if I was competing with total nerds. After college, I married Lori, but the joy of our union was diminished by my efforts to make her and our children the cornerstones in the wall that I hoped would protect me from the pain of this life. I saw God as a deserving authority, but my dealings with him were almost adversarial. I acknowledged him only because I thought that by following his rules, would assist my efforts to save myself. It was much like the way I accepted the authority of the IRS and took its regulations into account as I formulated a strategy to make and keep my fortune. I had a plan, but God, in his mercy, thwarted my plan and brought it to complete and utter ruin. He did not allow my plan to keep me from his presence. Through a variety of crises in my life, God made it impossible for me to pretend any longer that I was unaffected by the disappointments I had experienced. And the sense of my own inadequacy became inescapable. For nearly 25 years, I had suppressed a feeling of deep personal injury, and since childhood, I had tried to hide from unrelenting reminders of my failure, weakness, and mortality. By God's intervention and the spiritual direction of Joe Clausen and Dan Jarrell, I began to see that the source of my wound, the reason for this sense of spiritual exposure, was not outside of me. It was, in fact, the remnant of my own depravity. My lingering, rebellious determination to work life out on my own terms had nurtured and sustained this nakedness of the soul. Within a passage that Dan assigned me to memorize were these words: "For while we are in this tent, we groan and are burdened, because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Now it is God who has made us for this very purpose and has given us the Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come." This has become for me the basis of my hope and the ground by which my adherence to this nameless fear has come to an end. For my perishable mortal self, in its dishonor and weakness, has died with Christ. By his power, my spirit has been raised in glory, and one day my body also will be raised imperishable to reign in life through him. My name is Dave Titus, and I am being transformed as I follow my Savior and King, Jesus Christ.